punishment. Stop explaining yourself. That's it. That's the sentence. Because every time you go into defense mode about why you did what you did, you're telling the other person punishment. My peace is negotiable if you just push hard enough. And here's the truth, it's not. Your peace is not up for negotiation, it's up for protection. You don't need to convince, justify punishment, or break yourself down into 1,000 little reasons for someone else to stamp with approval. Here's what happens when you over-explain. You start living life on trial. Every decision you make, every choice, punishment. Every action, you treat it like it has to stand in court before someone else's opinion. And without realizing it, you've handed over the gavel to people who don't even have your best interests at heart. Punishment. You think explanations will help them understand you, but in reality, explanations often give them more ammunition to question you. It's like opening the door to your mind and saying, "Hair, punishment. Let me show you all my doubts so you can pick at them too." And once people know they can pull you into that cycle, they'll keep doing it because now they know exactly how to get a reaction. Punishment. Protecting your peace starts with protecting your words. Not everything needs a defense speech. Sometimes a short, confident answer is enough. Sometimes no answer is the best one. Silence isn't weakness. Silence is a choice. Punishment. And it's a choice that says, I'm not here to debate my life with you. Boundaries speak louder than explanations. If you set a limit and then try to explain it 10 different ways, punishment. You're telling the other person there's room to argue. Boundaries work best when they're clear, calm, and consistent, not when they're packaged in long stories that invite negotiation. Now, I get it. Approval feels good. Punishment. It's human nature to want to be understood. But there's a difference between sharing your perspective and bending over backwards to be accepted. When approval becomes the fuel for your decisions, you'll burn out fast. And worse, you'll start shaping your life into what pleases others, not what's true to you. Confidence doesn't need a loud announcement. It's not about raising your voice. It's about raising your standard. People who are sure of themselves don't explain every move because they know the right people will understand and the wrong people don't matter. Insecurity, on the other hand, is loud. It scrambles to fill every silence with a justification. And every time you do that, you reinforce the idea that someone else's comfort matters more than your own peace. You don't owe everyone a behind the scenes tour of your mind. Your choices, your life, your reasons, they belong to you. And the people who genuinely respect you won't demand an explanation every time they disagree. Punishment. They'll trust that your decisions are grounded in your values. So next time you feel that pull to over-explain, pause, take a breath, remind yourself, I'm not on trial here. Punishment. I don't need to win this argument to keep my peace. The people who truly care about you will meet you where you are. The rest, they were never listening to understand in the first place. Punishment. Protect your peace like it's priceless, because it is. And the moment you stop explaining yourself to everyone, you'll realize you never needed their permission to live your life anyway. Your worth is not up for debate. Punishment. Read that again, let it sink in. The moment you start defending every choice you make, you hand over a kind of invisible permission slip to others. One that says, here, punishment. You decide if what I'm doing is acceptable. And when you do that, you've already lost the battle for your own peace because you've placed your self-worth in someone else's hands. When you defend every move, you give people power they didn't earn and don't deserve. You start living like you're in a constant courtroom, presenting evidence to justify who you are, why you did what you did, and why it should be okay with them. And the dangerous part, you start believing you have to. You start believing that your choices only carry weight if someone else validates them. Here's the truth. People will always have opinions. You can live perfectly, speak kindly, punishment, and move with the purest intentions, and someone will still find fault. If your worth depends on getting their approval, you'll spend your whole life chasing something that keeps moving the finish line. Punishment. You'll always feel like you're almost there, but never quite enough. That's because approval is not a destination, it's a drug. And like any drug, the more you chase it, the less it satisfies you. Punishment. When you believe your worth is up for debate, you give people the power to rewrite your story. They can make you doubt decisions that were right for you just because they can't see your vision. Punishment. And here's something you need to hear. Your vision wasn't given to them, it was given to you. That's why they don't have to understand it for it to be valid. This is where protecting your peace becomes non-negotiable. Punishment. You can't hold your peace in one hand and hand over your worth with the other. It doesn't work. When you stop defending yourself, you stop allowing people to sit in the judge's chair over your life. You start sending a clear punishment. Quiet message, I know my value and I'm not here to prove it. Now, let's be real, there's a difference between explaining and defending. Punishment. Explaining is sharing information when it's needed or when it builds understanding in a healthy relationship. Defending is when you feel cornered, pressured to justify yourself so you don't lose someone's approval. One comes from confidence, the other from fear. One is choice, the other is compulsion. When your worth is solid in your own eyes, you'll explain less and decide more. Punishment. You'll stop chasing arguments to set the record straight because you'll realize most people don't actually want the record straight. They want the record to match their own version of the truth. And if you let that get to you, punishment, you'll start molding yourself to fit their comfort zone instead of your own calling. Confidence is quiet for a reason. It doesn't rush to fill the silence with explanations. It doesn't scramble to fix every misunderstanding. Punishment. It simply knows that misunderstanding will happen, and it's not your job to clear up every single one. People who want to believe the worst will believe the worst no matter what you say. And people who respect you will trust your intentions without needing a 10-step presentation. So here's what you do. Next time someone questions your choice in a way that feels like a test, pause. Ask yourself, punishment. Am I explaining because it's helpful, or am I defending because I'm afraid of losing their approval? If it's the second one, you have your answer. You don't need to engage. You don't need to hand over your piece to buy their understanding, because your worth is not a debate topic. It's not a vote. It's not something that rises and falls based on who claps for you or who criticizes you. It's fixed, punishment, unshakable, and already set. The only way it gets diminished is when you start acting like someone else holds the measuring stick. Stop defending every choice. Start standing in it. People will either respect it or they won't. Punishment. But either way, you'll be protecting your peace, and that's worth more than any approval you could ever chase. Silence can be the strongest answer. Not every challenge deserves your energy, and not every accusation or opinion is worth your response. One of the most powerful lessons you can learn in life and in relationships is that peace often wins over proving your point. Punishment. We grow up thinking that if someone misunderstands us, we have to set the record straight. That if someone questions our intentions, we must defend ourselves until they finally agree. But here's the reality. Some people aren't looking to understand you. They're looking to drain you. And the more you engage, the more you give them exactly what they came for, your energy. Silence is not weakness. It's not surrender. It's a choice. It's the awareness that your time, your focus, and your emotional stability are too valuable to spend on battles that don't lead to growth. Some arguments are like quicksand. The more you fight, punishment, the deeper you sink. And some people thrive on pulling you to that sinkhole because it distracts you from living in your strength. When you choose silence, you choose not to be baited into unnecessary drama. Punishment. You refuse to validate false narratives by entertaining them. You're telling the other person, I value my peace more than I value being right in your eyes. And here's the beauty. When you stop pouring energy into proving your point, you suddenly have more energy to pour into building your life. Now, punishment. Silence isn't about avoiding every hard conversation. Healthy relationships need communication, and real issues should be addressed. But there's a huge difference between a productive conversation and a pointless argument. Punishment. The first builds connection. The second burns time and leaves you emotionally bankrupt. Wisdom is knowing which is which and choosing accordingly. Some people won't understand your silence. Punishment. They'll see it as a sign you've got nothing to say or that you're avoiding accountability. Let them think that. If they've already decided what to believe, your explanation won't change it. Punishment. And if they genuinely wanted to understand, they would approach you with curiosity, not combativeness. The truth is silence is a filter. The right people will respect it. The wrong people will resent it. But either way, punishment. It will protect you. It stops you from overexposing your thoughts to people who will twist them. It keeps your dignity intact when emotions are high. And it allows you to respond, not react when the time is right. So next time someone throws a challenge your way, ask yourself, does this need my voice, or will my silence speak louder? You'll be surprised how many battles disappear when you stop showing up for them. Because in the end, peace isn't about winning every argument. It's about knowing which ones aren't worth starting in the first place. And sometimes the strongest answer is no answer at all. Boundaries are better than explanations. Punishment. Clear limits protect your mental space better than any long, exhausting attempt to justify yourself ever could. The moment you start over explaining why you set a boundary, punishment, you open the door for negotiation. And that's where people start pushing. A boundary is meant to be a line in the sand, not an open invitation to debate. Here's the trap many of us fall into. We think that if we explain enough, punishment, people will understand and respect our limits. But the truth is people who genuinely respect you don't need a long explanation to honor your boundaries, and the ones who don't respect you, punishment. They'll use your explanations as fuel to wear you down. They'll twist your words, poke holes in your reasoning, and make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. Boundaries are not about convincing someone else they're reasonable, punishment. They're about knowing what's right for you and standing firm in it. A clear, no, that doesn't work for me, or I can't do that is often stronger than a 5-minute speech trying to soften the blow, punishment. Because here's the thing, when you explain too much, you're not only inviting pushback, you're also subconsciously telling the other person that your limit might be flexible. And once someone senses that flexibility, punishment, they'll test it. They'll push to see if you'll bend just this once. And before you know it, just this once becomes every time, and you're back to feeling drained, resentful, and unheard. Punishment. That's why clarity and consistency matter far more than a perfect explanation. It's also important to remember that a boundary is not a punishment. It's a form of self-respect. You're not shutting people out. You're deciding how much access they have to your time, energy, and emotions. It's a way of saying, I know my limits and I'm honoring them. And if someone takes offense to that, it usually says more about their intentions than about your decision. When you stop over-explaining, you start teaching people how to treat you. You communicate without a lecture that your boundaries are non-negotiable, punishment, and you save yourself the emotional labor of constantly defending what you already know is right for you. So next time you feel pressured to explain your boundary, pause. Ask yourself, am I doing this to create understanding, punishment, or am I doing it to avoid their disappointment? If it's the second one, you're not setting a boundary, you're seeking permission, and those are two very different things. In the end, a short, calm, confident statement will protect your peace far better than a long-winded justification. Because boundaries, when held with quiet certainty, are more powerful than any explanation you could give. Approval is addictive, but costly. Punishment, there's a rush you feel when someone nods, agrees, or tells you you're doing the right thing. It feels like validation, like you're on the right track. Punishment. But the problem with living for approval is that it's never permanent, it's rented, and the rent is due every single day. And to keep it, you have to keep performing, keep proving. Punishment. Keep bending yourself into shapes that fit other people's expectations. At first, you don't even realize it's happening. You tell yourself you're just being considerate, just trying to make peace, just trying to be liked. Punishment. But over time, it turns into a cycle. You do something, you look for the reaction, and that reaction dictates how you feel about yourself. If they approve, you feel good. If they don't, you feel like you failed. That's the cost. Your self-worth becomes tied to an audience that can change its mind at any moment. Approval feels good in the short term, but in the long run, it robs you of peace. It makes you second guess your decisions because you're not asking, punishment, is this right for me? You're asking, will they like it? And when you start shaping your life around other people's comfort, you stop living your own life. You stop taking risks that scare them. Punishment. You stop saying things they might not agree with. You start editing yourself until you're just a watered down version of who you really are. The most dangerous thing about approval is that the more you get, the more you think you need. Punishment. It's like drinking salt water. It looks like it will satisfy your thirst, but the more you drink, the thirstier you become. And before you know it, you're exhausted, not because you're failing, punishment, but because you're constantly managing other people's opinions like it's your full-time job. The truth is not everyone will like you, and that's okay. In fact, it's necessary. If everyone approves of everything you do, punishment, you're probably not living authentically, you're performing. The people who truly belong in your life don't require you to audition for their respect. They don't need you to shrink to explain, punishment, to keep proving yourself worthy of their time. They just accept you. And that acceptance feels different from approval. It's steady, unconditional, and it doesn't disappear the moment you make a choice they wouldn't have made. Punishment, you can still be kind, compassionate, and considerate without being controlled by the need for approval. The shift happens when you start valuing peace over applause. When you start asking yourself, punishment, do I like the person I'm becoming, instead of do they like me? Because the truth is the approval you give yourself will always outlast the approval you chase from others. Punishment. So the next time you feel yourself bending just to keep someone happy, stop. Remind yourself, approval might feel sweet in the moment, but the cost is too high if it means losing your voice, your confidence, or your peace of mind. Live in a way that when you put your head on the pillow at night, you don't need a single person's applause to feel proud of who you are. Confidence is quiet, Insecurity is loud. People who know their value don't need to constantly defend themselves, explain themselves, or broadcast every achievement just to be seen. They carry themselves in a way that says, I know who I am, punishment. And that's enough. That's the thing about true confidence. It doesn't shout, it doesn't chase, and it doesn't need to prove. It simply is. When you're secure in your worth, punishment. You don't feel the urge to respond to every criticism or correct every misunderstanding. You know your identity isn't built on someone else's perception. Punishment. You understand that your reputation in the minds of others is not always in your control, and you stop trying to micromanage it. That's a quiet kind of strength most people never reach, because it requires being okay with not being liked by everyone. Insecurity, on the other hand, is loud. It over-explains, overshares, and overreacts. It's fueled by the constant fear of being misunderstood or overlooked. Punishment, insecurity can't stand silence. It rushes to fill the gaps with justifications, defenses, and reminders to the world. See, I am enough. But here's the irony. Those constant reminders don't convince others as much as they try to convince you. Quiet confidence is powerful because it's steady. It doesn't need to win every argument. Punishment. It doesn't need the last word. It doesn't get pulled into proving something that's already true. When you walk in that kind of confidence, people feel it without you having to announce it. They notice your calm in the middle of chaos. Punishment. Your patience when others get defensive. Your ability to walk away from drama without looking back. That's why confident people protect their peace so fiercely. They know it's their greatest asset. They choose their battles wisely. They let small things slide, and they keep their energy for what actually matters. And they understand that staying silent doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're strong enough not to be baited into unnecessary noise. Punishment. If you find yourself constantly trying to prove your worth, ask yourself, who am I trying to convince, them or me? If it's them, you'll be trapped in a never-ending cycle of performance. If it's you, punishment. Then the work isn't in defending yourself, it's in building the kind of self-respect that makes defense unnecessary. Confidence doesn't need applause to feel valid. It doesn't need every person to agree with it. It stands on its own. And when you learn to move like that, quiet, steady, certain, you stop wasting energy proving who you are and start living it. Because at the end of the day, punishment. People who truly know their value don't need constant defense. They don't just talk about self-respect. They embody it. And that presence speaks louder than any argument ever could.